evaluate 5 cosine squared theta plus 2 is equals to 3 sine squared theta minus 2 cosine of theta, given that theta should be greater than or equal to negative 180 degrees and it should be less than or equal to 180 degrees. Now, how do we solve this kind of a logarithmic equation? For any equation, any singular equation, we must ensure that all the terms are uniform unless it is simultaneous. Like in this case, when you look at this logarithmic equation, you'll notice that it has got cosine and it has got sine. So cosine and sine, and you're required to solve that. It is not possible to solve that unless you make everything to be uniform. That is, you make everything to be cosine or everything to be sine. So when I look at this logarithmic equation, the easiest way is to convert everything and to make it cosine. And how do I do that? Here we have 5 cosine, that is okay. The only place I need to do something is here, 3 sine squared theta. So this sine squared theta, I have to make this one to be cosine. What am I going to use? I will use an identity which you'll know that given cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta is equals to 1. This one is an identity that you all know, and since I want to make sine squared theta to be cosine, to express it in terms of cosine, I will simply take cosine squared theta to the right hand side, and I will have sine squared theta is equals to 1. So when I take cosine squared theta, the right hand side I have 1 minus cosine squared theta. Simple as that. So I've been able to use this identity and come up with sine squared theta is equals to 1 minus cos squared theta. So what I need to do now is to just substitute these. This is now sine squared theta. So in place of sine squared theta, I'm going to substitute these. So I'll write my equation. So my equation is 5 cosine squared theta plus 2 is equals to 3. Now in place of sine squared theta, I'm going to write the sine squared theta is 1 minus cos squared theta, then minus 2 cos theta, like that. So this one will give 5 cosine squared theta plus 2 is equals to 3 minus 3 cosine squared theta minus 2 cos theta. Now the only thing that we need to do now here is to simply reorganize the whole thing here by collecting the like terms together, and I will bring 3 cosine squared theta to the left hand side, and this is what I will have, 5 cosine squared theta plus 2. So I want to bring everything that is in the right hand side to the left hand side. So start by bringing 3, so it will be negative 3. I bring negative 3 cos squared theta. When I take it to the other side, it will be plus 3 cosine squared theta. This one again will be plus. When I take it to the left hand side, it will be plus 2 cos theta, and everything to the right hand side I remain with 0. So I've brought everything that is in the right hand side to the left hand side. So like terms together, 5 cosine squared theta plus 3 cosine squared theta, this will give 8 cos squared theta. Then this one we have plus 2 cosine theta, don't have anything else. Then 2 minus 3, we get negative 1. So we are done with that, and this one will give 0. Now you can see we have simplified our logarithmic equation, and we have been able to simplify it the best way. And now from here it will be very easy now to go on, because you can see now everything is uniform. We have cosine, cosine. So looking at this, you'll notice that this one is quadratic equation, and we just need to substitute cosine with any other letter. Let's say let cos theta be y. If you let it be y, so in place of cosine theta, just replace that one with y. So 8 cosine squared theta will be what? Given y is cos theta, this will be 8y squared. Then plus 2 cos theta will be 2y. Then minus 1 is equals to 0. We're still moving on. So solve this equation using any suitable method. So I'll use factorization. So look for two numbers whose product is negative 8 and sum is 2. These numbers are quite easy. It is negative 2 and 4. Negative 2 and 4. Okay, so 8y squared plus 4y minus 2y. Remember, 4y minus 2y is 2y minus 1 is equals to 0. So between 8y squared and 4y, what is common? 4y is common. So we have 2y plus 1. Then between negative 2y and negative 1 is common. So we have 2y plus 1 is equals to 0. Still moving on. So this will give 4y minus 1. 2y plus 1 is equals to 0. So you have two solutions here. The first solution, 4y minus 1 is equals to 0. So in this case, y will be a quarter, or 2y plus 1 is equals to 0. And so y is equals to negative a half. Now after getting that, now this is the point now where we need to work towards the solution. Remember what was y? We had let y, that cosine theta, to be y, and you have got one value of y, which is 1 over 4. So when y is 1 over 4, so you say cosine theta is equals to 1 over 4. So we need now to get the angle. Now how do we get the angle? You just need to get the cosine inverse. This is the same as 0.25. So theta will be, you get the cos inverse of 1 over 4, and theta will give you, so this is the same as getting the cos inverse of 0.25 to give 75.52. 75.52 degrees. So that is the first angle. Remember the range that you're given. The range that you're given in the question, don't forget the range that you're given. Our solution should be theta should be greater than or equal to negative 180, and it should be less than or equal to 180. Don't forget that. That is very important. So using these 75, do we still have another angle? Now on the negative side, you just need to remember these. This one is the unit circle where we have all students take coffee. You know what this means, eh? That in the first quadrant, all the trigonometric ratios are positive. That is sine, cosine, and tangent. Then the second quadrant, sine is positive. The third quadrant, tangent is positive. The fourth quadrant, cosine is positive. So here we've obtained, you can see that cosine is positive a quarter. So where is cosine positive? And we must maintain our range, the range given. The first one is here. That is where we get the angle 75.52. On the negative side, remember when we measure negative angles, we measure the negative angles in clockwise direction from here, clockwise direction. So cosine is positive here also, positive here. So in the first and the fourth quadrant. So measuring the negative angle in the fourth quadrant, the angle will fall here. And that angle will be negative 75.52. That angle will still give, if you get the cosine, you can try to get these. The cosine of negative 75.52 will still give you 0.25. So there are two angles that we get from here. That cosine theta is equals to 1 over 4. So the first angle is 75.52, which falls in the first quadrant. Then because of that range that you're given, it should be greater than or equal to negative 180. Now we are looking at that range. So this one, negative 75, is here. So you measure from 0 in a clockwise direction, so it will appear here. So negative 75 will be in the fourth quadrant. So we have two angles, this one and this one. Now we go to the other solution. The other one was y is equals to negative a half. Y is equals to negative a half. So y is equals to negative a half. But you know y was cosine. So this means that cosine theta is equals to negative a half, which is the same as negative 0.5. So this negative implies what? We are going to consider the quadrant where we have cosine as negative. So we first get the acute angle that you're going to use. What is cos inverse of 0.5? The cos inverse of 0.5 is 60 degrees. So this one, we have ignored the negative because the negative implies we're going to consider which quadrants do we have cosine as negative, which quadrants. That is why I've not included this cosine inverse of negative 0.5. So cosine is negative in the second quadrant, because in the second quadrant only sign is positive, and in this quadrant, so in the second and the third quadrant, that is why you have cosine being negative. So the acute angle you're going to use is 60. So how do you get the angle in the second quadrant? We just take 180 degrees, we subtract 60. This will give us 120 degrees. So this is the first angle. The other angle, if you are to get the angle in the other quadrant here, the third quadrant, we will have to take 180 plus 60, which will give 240, and 240 will be out of the range. Remember, our range is from negative 180 to 180. So any other quadrant that you have, when I look at the fourth quadrant from the negative side, from the negative side we can still get this one. So from here we can go to negative negative 120. Negative 120 will still be here, so negative 120 will be there, and negative 120 will still give us the solution. So the other one is now on the negative 120 degrees. Why? Because remember, our range is from negative 180 to 180, so you can still see that this one is still there. And if you want to verify your answers, you can just insert cosine of negative 120, cosine of negative 120 degrees. You notice it is giving you 0.5, so it is among our solution. The other one was 120, cosine of 120, cosine of 120. You still see you're getting negative 0.5. So there are two answers there. We don't have any other. So now we have obtained all the answers. So theta therefore is the first one, we got 75.52 degrees. Then we have negative 75.52 degrees. Then we have 120 degrees and negative 120 degrees. So these are the values of theta that will satisfy that logarithmic equation.